The Norwegian Refugee Council, that's an agency providing aid to the displaced Iraqis, is putting those numbers at more than 10,000. And for more on this, I'm joined by Melany Markham, who joins us from Erbil in Iraq. And she's a spokesperson for the Norwegian Refugee Council. Thanks so much for joining us. Now, what exactly have you been seeing and hearing there on the ground?
I've heard some very harrowing accounts from people. One family I spoke to paid $400 per person to be smuggled out of Qaim, which is a town on the Syrian border. An old man who had fled with 18 of his family members. He fled to save his 14-year-old grandson from mandatory recruitment by ISIS, and he told me that he'd seen death 1,000 times. Every person who is fleeing this area at the moment has a harrowing story to tell. Another woman I spoke to, her husband had been detained by ISIS a year ago. She hadn't seen him since. Her oldest child was 10 years old. She had 4 children and none of them had been to school.
So these accounts are horrifying, and I imagine now that Daesh is losing more of its control over the territory, we're hearing the real human stories coming out. I even heard of one account of boys as young as 11 years old being recruited by Daesh. Where do these people go to now, and how are they looked after? I mean, this has been so traumatic for them.
It is. It's an extremely difficult situation. The displacement camps that we work in are really a last resort. They're for people who have nothing and who have nowhere to go. The reality is that they may be in these camps for months, possibly even years to come, if their homes have been destroyed and if they have nothing to go back to. So not only do we need to provide for their immediate needs, food, water, shelter, sanitation, but we need to look at the medium and long term. So we need to provide education for children, especially if they're to have a chance at life after this battle ends.
Can I ask you about the funding and the help for these people? I saw one quote that said only 62% of the UN's 2017 humanitarian response plan had actually found funding. Why is that?
I think it's a very difficult time for the international humanitarian system. We're faced with a number of global crises, some conflict crises, some are food crises, and the funding system is under tremendous strain. So it's not unusual for large-scale crises to go underfunded at this time. Now, although 62% of funds have been found for the 5 million odd people in Iraq who are targeted with humanitarian aid, water is one of the areas that remains underfunded. So we understand that around 40% of the funding needed to provide people with toilets and clean water has been provided to the people in Iraq. So that remains a very critical area that still needs resources.
Thank you, Melany Markham from the Norwegian Refugee Council. Wish you and your organisation the best of luck with your help there.